conversation, a verbal exchange that was getting a little loud, and then they heard the shots. He shot her. Hi, welcome to Tamika's Story Time. Thank you for tuning in. If you haven't subscribed already, I encourage you to do so and give me a like. This story today that I'm getting ready to share with you is about a young girl who lost her life at the hands of her boyfriend. Um, this was back in the 90s where there was no social media. There was no, you get information at your fingertips. You had to pick up the phone or call. You either got it from the person who knew the person, or you know a phone call away. That was the call. That was out back then. Okay, so um, this, and it wasn't prevalent for situations like this to happen back then for a young girl, 20, in her 20s. So we this was about several months after my boyfriend was murdered. That video is in my on my page in this story time. I give details of that situation in another video that you can go back and check out. Um, but this particular video is pertaining to this young lady who um, we all went on a day trip. It was myself, my sister, my cousin, and a couple of girlfriends. Um, so it was like in total about 8 of us. And we took 2 carloads up to Wildwood from Philadelphia. And it was a day trip. So it was something that helped me get out of the funk that I was in, and change up the monopoly in my, excuse me, I'm drinking some tea. I'm having some lemon ginger timing tea just to wet my throat. Continue. Mm, thank you for being with me. But yes, so we drove up to Wildwood, and it was to change the whole. We needed the time. We just went and had a girls trip, and that's what it was. It was a girls trip. When we got there, we got on the rides at the Wildwood Boardwalk. We did some drinking, some frozen margaritas. We had some funnel cake. We played on the, had a blast on the beach and in and out of the stores. So by the time that we was leaving, it was like nighttime. The sun was down now, and it was at night. So we're heading back to our vehicles, and we have to walk down the boardwalk, back from the north end of the boardwalk to the south end of the boardwalk, because we was parked at the south end. But along the our walk down the boardwalk, there was a young person handing out flyers for tarot card reading, or to get a psychic, to see a psychic to get a reading. And when I seen it, I said, you know what, I want to get one. And so everybody pretty much followed suit. From there, I went in, and when I went inside, there was an old gypsy lady sitting there in her chair. She was a frail woman, and she had a scarf on, and she had, you know, she had the total gypsy look, but she looked every bit in her 90s. She had salt and pepper hair, but predominantly her hair was gray. She never really looked up at me as I took a seat across from her. She just kind of like a deck of cards. She slid across the table to me, and as she told me to shuffle the cards, and as I was shuffling the cards, she asked me. She said, tell me the desires of your heart." Never looking at me, still with her head down. So I'm saying, and I'm thinking to myself, yeah, tell you the desires of my heart. Okay, this reading should be interesting, because now I'm going to give you some information that you're going to basically come off of on, from the information I'm giving you. So I'm thinking this in my head as I shuffle the cards and slide them back to her. So she lays the cards, she lays 3 cards face up with characters on the front of the card. Those who have not had a psychic reading done, the cards that the tarot cards have little characters on there and they represent something. So once she did that, and I said, I said to her, a family. I gave her that as my desires of my heart. I said, I would like to have a family. And she looked up at me and she said, no, you want baby. You want baby. And I was like, and mind you, that is exactly what was desires of my heart at that time. I didn't want a family. I wanted a baby. I was in a juvenile state of mind that I was thinking that if I had a baby would give me the unconditional love I was in search of, and my mother would help me with this baby, raising this baby. So I had that juvenile mentality at that time. And she said, you have sight. And I'm like still looking at this lady because I'm blown away that this lady pulled out the truth from me when I was trying to deliberately deceive her. And I'm saying to myself, okay, sight. I know. I see myself in here. I know I have sight. Juvenile mindset. I didn't know, give it any more deeper thought than that. So, you know, I left out, I floated out, if you will, on just the notion that she gave me confirmation that I will be a mother. So I walked out and the next person went in and I'm standing there. I walked into the night air and the moon was so bright and it was glistening over the ocean water, and the ambience on the boardwalk, that was the ambience on the boardwalk from the other storefronts light. um you know it was just like I was in such a state of joy, if you will. As I sat there waiting for the girls to come out, I was standing there just staring out at the night ocean, you know. And then shortly after, the girl who this video is about, she came out and she came right over to me. She said, what did she say to you? And I said, oh, she said I was going to have a baby. And so I said, what did she say to you? And she wasn't as happy and excited as I was. She just was like, she just told me about my boyfriend, something about my boyfriend, and then, just kind of waved it off. But by that time, the other girls was coming out, my sister, my girlfriend, my cousin, and they know, everybody was like, my sister was a little upset. She had got confirmation from the lady that my aunt, we don't have the same aunt. We have the same aunt. It's from her father's side. We all family. That's my aunt as well. Her family's my family, her family, whatever. However, we always was like that. That's the type of environment we grew up in. You ain't know, yeah, you have a different father, but your father is my father. Your father people is my people. How about that? Yeah, so that's how we rode, okay? So it was an aunt of ours who was laying up in a bed of affliction, and she told her. And my sister was a little upset, quite upset about that. So, and she told her some other things which resonated in her life at that time. And my cousin, she gave her things that resonated in her life. She told her how many children she was going to have. She told her about the man that she was with at that time, and that how it wasn't going to last. She was going to meet her husband, and it actually came to pass. So we was just basically just like mesmerized of how this woman was so accurate and on point. However, the girl who felt slighted in her reading, because the lady basically told her, your boyfriend, and then she dismissed her. Essentially, I found out that the lady told her, next time you get reading, next time, go stay away from your boyfriend's dangerous man. And she felt slighted. So we tried to give her reassurance after that. When we arrived home, like, oh, we'll do this trip again, and the lady was old. She probably was tired, so that kind of like pretty much helped her to get over the reading that she felt was not as fulfilling as it was for all of us or the rest of the girls. So as time went on, we continued to go out. The social, she was actually, she wasn't a close friend of mine. She was a friend of mine through a friend. Like social media today, if you go on somebody's page, you'll see that y'all have maybe 10, 20 people in common. Well, back then, those 10, 20 people you had to hear about, or you would remember those people from being in your inner circle, social circle, um, because that's what we had, a social circle. And in that social circle would sometimes include the same people or sometimes bring in new people. So but she was pretty consistent in the social circle. When we would go to the skating, we would go out to dinner, and do things. So I got the chance to pretty much know a little bit about her, to know that she was a good she every time I encountered this girl, she was a beautiful girl. For one thing, she was always pleasant, she was laughable, she enjoyed life. And so this particular but the guy that she was dating, he was a street guy, and he came from a large family, a lot of brothers. It was a lot of them, and it was about 6 or 7 brothers, and all of them was handsome, nice looking. And I dated one of the brothers at one time, but at the time that she was dating, it was after the time that my boyfriend had got murdered. I had dated one of the brothers. It was briefly, but at the time that I was dating that brother, I kind of heard him with another girl, and it wasn't a good thing. He was very abusive to his girlfriends, but a lot of girls liked him. So this girl dating him didn't surprise me. It did, but it didn't, because she was attractive, he was attractive, but he will always wear a baseball cap pulled down over his forehead, like he was hiding or something. And that was his style. That was him. So the situation that surrounded her death was, he was abusive to her as he was to his other girlfriends. um she wanted out. She finally decided that she wanted to be gone, and this is a year later from the psychic reading. She ended her relationship. So in her doing so, she got a restraining order, and he wanted his money back. She had some money of his in her account. He was a street guy back then. That's what was typically done. If a street guy was getting money like that and getting a lot of money, he would give his money to his girlfriend, because his girlfriend was a legit, and she had her own a bank account, so that would be where he would put his money. So that's what happened in this situation. She had a lot of his money. So she was at work, and he went to her job. I don't know what corresponded on how did she know he was coming, or what was said before she got to work, or how that transaction or whatever corresponded in between that time. I have no idea. All I know is that the man went to her job, and he asked to speak to her, and she worked downtown Center City in one of the safest buildings. Okay, you work downtown Center City, you are down there where there is the municipal buildings, and she worked in one of the municipal buildings. Okay, so she was a clerk in one of those buildings, and he went into the building. He went to her location. He knew where she worked, so he asked to speak to her, and she came out. And she came out when she was standing outside her office door, and they heard a little bit of altercation, a verbal exchange that was getting a little loud, and then they heard the shots. He shot her twice in her head and took off running. Needless to say, they caught him. So when they caught him, of course, he got locked up. but she lost her life. She died right there. So it was like torn. It was like the community that involved all of his social and family on both sides, it was torn down the middle because his people and his family friends is saying, oh, she should have gave him his money. When you put money in front of a crime, then it be like it's fair game. Unfortunately, that's the mentality of most people. She took his money. She was spending his money. She wouldn't give him his money. This, that, and other. The stories start coming out little bit at a time. Oh no, she had X amount of dollars in her account of his. She was spending X amount of dollars. Oh, she wanted to move on. She should have gave him his money. She was a young lady, 20 years old, didn't have a chance to have a child, didn't have a chance to get married. She came from a good family who had prospects for their daughter, and they were adamant that they were going to make sure that he never see the day of light. Rightfully so. That's her family. People that support her, like, and myself, I'm saying, like, no, that's no rhyme or reason. You don't do that. You don't take out someone you claim to have loved or love like that. That's something that could work itself out. Who's to say that she wouldn't have gave him his money? I don't know what was said or how that came about, but the thing is that I knew that she was a decent, loving person, and she wanted to live, okay, because she was very beautiful. She had ambitions. She wasn't rowdy. She didn't want to fight on these girls that wanted him. She didn't want to go back and forth with any girls about him. She wanted to go on and do her. And that's all I know. And the bottom line is this, is that it cost a lot at that time, a split social disrupt, if you will, because he was popular. Yeah, so that's how that was. And I say that, if you find yourself in a situation like that, in an altercation, if you have something that belongs to somebody, just give it to them. It's not worth it. Because when you're trying to get rid of a person, they'll use anything to continue to latch themselves onto you. So you give them what they want, and if they say you owe me $10, give them 20. How about that?